Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Jeffrey Brewster on the line. He's Managing Director of Business Valuation over at Objective Valuation. Jeffrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so great to have you on the show, and a lot of business owners and executives listen to this program, and many of them are senior level, and they may be going along those lines of planning and or thinking about, what an eventual exit would look like, or even if they're, maybe thinking about, successorship within their family and passing the business down. And one of the big topics that we often come across is valuation, right? What's it worth? Like, what do we do with it? I'm excited to have you on the line as an expert. But before, and we're going to get into this today, some things that business owners should be thinking about. But before we do, we will start this episode the way that we start them all, with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Jeffrey, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Jeffrey, what mission matters to you?
My mission matters is I help people understand better. And sometimes that means how to better understand their company's current valuation, or perhaps how to improve their company's valuation in the future. That's the mission that matters to me.
You're speaking our language here, Jeffrey, so excited to get into this. And so I guess, where did all this start from you? Like, I see that you're a CFA. I mean, you have quite a bit of credentials. Like, where did this path and this desire to help businesses understand valuation come from?
It's very interesting. I grew up in what I would call the family entrepreneur business. And my grandfather had a sixth grade education and ran a greenhouse. It started in 1952. It is still in the family. So this is the third generation. My sister is now doing it. So, it was one of those things. We never got to go on spring break. We never got to do vacations. So that was, but I loved it. I loved being around businesses, and I learned so much from my grandfather and my grandmother, and had some great times learning what does it mean to really be a customer, and really what does it really mean to be a customer service, but also how to manage a business. And it just, again, one of those wonderful things that I will never, ever be, I would say, how do I put it? Never be someone who I'll look at and say, wow, I wish I would have been able to do something different. No, I loved being part of the family business.
Oh man, that's awesome, and that's great. I love it. So you were born into this kind of work, and at some point you found this need and or want to go further and work on the valuation side of things. So how did that work? Like, tell us a little bit more about this marriage with Objective Valuation.
Yeah, so it was very interesting because my grandfather, I kind of go back to my pops. That was his, Pops was very, very interested in the stock market, and actually spent a lot of time teaching me, and I tell people this and they don't believe it, but I literally started working with him and investing when I was in fifth grade. He gave me these articles to read in the Wall Street Journal, and we'd read together annual reports, and then he would help me understand economic and financial and valuation issues. And it was just a natural progression for me to spend some time in the capital markets, and then do not only valuation of publicly traded companies, but also privately held companies as well.
Man, what a great story. So first off, I guess tell us a little bit more about Objective Valuation. Tell us more about the firm, please.
So we have, a great group of people that we work with, and I have some colleagues that just have such great expertise in the way that, again, for instance, we have an individual who is the managing director and Chris is in Denver. We have Channing spends most of his time in San Diego and also does spend some time in LA. And then myself is really, I would say, more in the Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, Florida, wherever we need to go, that's what we kind of do. And one of the great things about having the team that we have is Chris is really one of these guys that we work together in an excellent way to deal with and understand the financial reporting aspect. And valuation is very interesting because you have this valuation that is done for financial reporting purposes that, really is going to show up in balance sheet, sometimes income statement, and then there's the tax aspect of it. And so, we'll do the valuations for estate and gift tax planning. And then I also do expert witness testimony and for litigation support. So as we sit there and look at all of these different groups and this different, again, wonderful way of looking at it, having this expertise, we can sit back and go, all right, what does this mean, and what would somebody else have, so we have this great synergy and these great opportunities to sit back and go, well, what about this? And that's I would say one of the greatest things about having the people that we have in place is to work with them and to figure out the best thing and the best practice to come, put it all together.
Now, I don't want to oversimplify things, and I know there's only, so much we can get covered in, a 15 to 20-minute podcast episode, but for the listeners, I don't want you to worry. Like, I'm going to let Jeffrey leave, contact info or websites, whatever he wants to, so you can follow up and continue the conversation. But, broadly speaking, Jeffrey, I know you've been doing this a long time. What are some of the common pitfalls that you find? And again, understanding every business is going to be different, and there's many, many different scenarios. But what are some of the common, high-level pitfalls that you see businesses kind of run into when they're thinking about going down this valuation path and creating more value?
Yeah, there are, I would say, a number of common issues that people run into, and the pitfalls. The pitfalls I'd say are some of the biggest ones are for instance, when they will do a situation where they're going, okay, we're going to do transfer, right? We've got the family we know. We got a daughter that's going to take over. We're very, very certain that she's going to be a great CEO, and then you find out that she really doesn't have any interest whatsoever in running the company.
Yeah. And that can put a monkey wrench into things, huh?
Oh, yeah, it does. And then now you're sitting there going, wait a second, I thought she was going to, now what are we going to do? And the communication and quite frankly, sometimes, the daughter decides that, that's exactly what I want to do. And then all of a sudden they wake up one morning and I go, that's really not what I want to do. So, those ideas can just change, and okay, now what? And now the founder or the board has to go, what are we going to do next? And the situations that brings into, so now you sit there and you say, well, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to find somebody to do this for us, or we're going to go out and we're going to send we're going to sell, and we're going to bring in, and we're going to send out our best effort that we can and try and find what can we do. And then now it becomes very, very difficult for that person that is sitting there going, the idea that we had is now changed. And so now we have to start taking into consideration other things. Do I want to leave a legacy, or do I want to leave at a certain point in time in the future? What does it look like? And what, how much do we need to make it worthwhile for us to sell a company? Do we want it to be a minority position? Do we want it to be a control position? There are so many questions that come up, and so what we have found is you have to really take that piece by piece. And the fact is that you've got these amazing opportunities, and maybe it's more than what, for lack of a better word, it's overwhelming. So you have to figure out what is it that works best for you, and sometimes it does matter what the economy is doing as well. And so timing is another big issue. When is a sale makes more sense? Today? 10 years from now? 5 years from now? And legacy. What kind of legacy do I do? I've got clients who basically have made a decision and said, we really want to make sure that we leave the best legacy we possibly can, because these are people who are friends, and we get invited to these birthday partnership parties, and they show up at our house for dinner, and they're like family. So we don't want to just sell the company and then leave them with, somebody that's a stranger running the company. So a lot of decisions that have to be made.
Oh, I completely get this, and as we're kind of talking, like, I'm just picturing like all these different scenarios, and I know you just named one. Like, this is one, and I know there's hundreds of scenarios, if not more, that come up in your day-to-day. What I want you to do is, for individuals that want to follow up and maybe want to run their scenario by you and your team, what's the best way for people to connect and to follow up?
Yeah, just reach out via email, or you can call me directly. Phone number is 469-394-1448. You can text me there, and we'll always tell people, honestly, having a conversation that, if maybe that first hour that we spend together is just the beginning of the questions that are coming up, and the things that they need to really stop and think about. And we may have to have more than one time where we have those conversations. There may be multiple hours where we have to spend at times with us, and figure out what it's going to take to get them to a point where they really want to be.
Yeah. That's great. And, Jeffrey, first off, it's been great having you on the show. I mean, my heart goes out to all the business owners and executives out there. And valuation, I mean, it's a core thing. To me, I look at it pretty simply that, you don't want to leave money on the table, like at the end of the day, especially if you're thinking about selling, or if you're thinking about, what's next, or even just, legacy and what you're leaving behind. I mean, like, you don't want to leave money on the table in terms of your overall valuation. So working with a professional firm like Objective Valuation, I mean, it just makes sense. And to the audience, I will definitely be putting all the, contact information and all that stuff that Jeffrey talked about into the show notes, so that you can just head right on over and connect with his team. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging with the Mission Matters episode, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts, and having them share, their vision, their background, their company, of course, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and really what we can all learn and gain from that, so that we can all grow together. If that's the type of information or content that sounds interesting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals just like Jeffrey coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Jeffrey, again, really, it's been a pleasure. Thanks again for coming on the show and sharing.
I thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.